So I wanted to do an official command priority, how to build around any commander deck, because I love making deck techs for you all. It's what got the channel started. It's what made me love Magic even more, was helping my friends build decks, and then having them both like the decks that I build and hate the decks that I build, ironically. So I wanted to do just a general, this is how you can build around any commander. So the goal here is going to be to make it go from something like this to this. Let's get into it. So I've always been a fan of picking my commander first. The first step in this tutorial here is to pick your new commander. It doesn't have to be a stressful thing. You don't need to sweat anything over it or worry anything. You can, it's not a sponsor of this channel. You can go to EDH Rec and just go to the top 100 commanders and scroll the wheel on the mouse and see where it stops if you want. It can be really simple, or you can just happen upon one in a new set, like this new Hobbit set that just came out. But yeah, so first step, pick your commander. The next step is going to be, what does your commander want to do? And it's just the very basic of what it's wanting to do. So if your selected commander talks about explicitly milling your opponents, and you try and turn that into a life gain strategy, I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying that it's unlikely that you're going to have that good of a time with trying to accomplish that. And a perfect example of understanding just the basics of what your commander wants to do is Panlaza Sun Favored. So Panlaza is 2 red, green, and a white for a dinosaur legendary creature. 4/4 says whenever Panlaza Sun Favored or another dinosaur enters the battlefield under your control, you may discover X, where X is that creature's toughness. Do this only once each turn. So the very basic of what Panlaza wants is to cast it and have it enter. You get the discover trigger for 4, flip till you hit something that's 4 or less, and you can cast it or put it in your hand. And then basically you just hope to have the mana to cast another dinosaur next turn. That way you can get another discover trigger. Next, we have to consider, what are those colors good at? So the example I'm going to use here is Y'shtola Knight's Blessed. She's an Esper commander. So white, blue, and black. We know that white is good at protection and white's good at stacks. We know that blue's good at drawing cards and counter spells, and we know that black is good at removal. So if we combine that with what she wants to do, which is at the beginning of each end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, you draw a card, and then whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, your Y'shtola deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. So combining those two things together, we know what the commander is wanting to do. She wants to cast 3+ non-creature spells to ping opponents, gain life, and draw a card at end step, as long as we can meet that 4 damage mark. And then we know what her colors are good at. So you put those two together, then that to me says this is going to be a deck with heavy interaction and or free spells, 3+ mana rocks, and maybe some unusual draw spells, because you don't want to use just a brainstorm for 1 mana, because yes, you're going to get some cards, but you're not going to get a trigger. The whole thing is going to revolve around that trigger. Next, we have to decide what our game plan is. Now, you would think maybe we just covered that, right? We know what the card does. We know what the colors of the commander want and are good at. So we're done, right? Not quite. So going back to the example with Panlaza Sun Favored. So at its base, Panlaza just wants you to cast it, get the trigger, and then probably, unless you have a bunch of mana, hope that next turn you can cast another dinosaur with pants out and be able to get another discover trigger. And that's the very direct game plan. But if you want to go in the strengths of the colors and also go with what the commander wants to do, but do it in a roundabout way, that's when you get the blink strategy of Panlaza. You're still accomplishing the same thing. In white, red, and green, you've got green has big creatures, white has protection, and red has speed. So, and green has ramp. So it's all in. You can have a direct play at what you're trying to accomplish inside the confines of what the commander wants and what the colors are strong at, or you can have a roundabout of the same thing. So next part we're at is going to be game plan and color support. So we're going to be getting the idea of what we're wanting to do, and then the colors that we're in with our commander to hold hands. So that's very important. Starting off with Y'shtola, we know what she wants to do. We know she wants to do 3 mana or greater non-creature spells so we can ping our opponents, gain life, and hopefully at end step draw a card if we meet her other criteria. So hitting the 4 big categories, which are creatures, card draw, ramp, and then interaction for this segment. The creatures in Y'shtola are based on what she wants and her colors that she's in. We can already tell she's not going to be a heavy creature strategy. So the creatures that are in this deck are going to be in support of the commander and the overall plan, and not for any other purpose. Moving on to card draw, reading her, we know that she wants 3 or greater spells, 3 or greater mana spells that are non-creature to be able to get her trigger and hopefully draw a card at end step. So we're going to be using not stuff mainly like 1 mana spells to be able to draw cards, because that's going to get us cards, but it's not going to get us triggers. So we ideally want both. So the card draw is going to be stuff that meets the criteria. We're going to need a lot of card draw in a deck like this, since it's not creature based, and it's going to be more on spells because we need to keep our hand full. Next is ramp. Since we're not in green, we're going to be using rocks and rituals. I mean, dark ritual is 1 in black, and then if you're not in green, you pretty much have to be on rocks, or else you're going to have a really slow game. So this deck runs a lot of mana rocks, and then in your version, you could add more rituals if you wanted to. And then the overall most important part of a deck like this, in this example, is the interaction, because if we're not doing creatures, then we're spell based. So the interaction is going to be where this deck shines. So on the other end of the spectrum, we have Panlaza, which is almost an exact opposite of Y'shtola, but is a perfect example here to show the contrast. It's a dinosaur deck, so it's all about creatures. It has plenty of spells, but that's not how it's winning the game. We are winning the game through combat and through big stompy dinosaurs. So in that, we would go over the creatures, which would be very important to this game plan. Card draw, which would be a little bit less important because of what our commander does. Not saying it's not important, but if we can get free stuff off of the Discover trigger with Panlaza, then not only in the colors is card draw not as good, but it's not as important because we are getting that free trigger for a spell or creature or whatnot, depending on the toughness. Next, we have ramp. Since we are in green, we are going to be running, you're automatically going to be running a ton of dorks if your strategy supports dorks. If not, then you're going to be doing ramp spells, instants and or sorceries that go and get lands and put them into play. Being in green and being in a big stompy plan, those ramp is very important. And then interaction in these colors, interaction isn't quite as interactive with the other opponent or opponents as in Y'shtola, just based off the colors. A lot of the interaction here is going to be in protecting our creatures and our game plan, and less about trying to mess up or interact with someone else's game plan. Finally, you have total mana value and curve. So using the 2 decks as an example, and both of these videos are going to be linked here at the end, and you can go and watch them if you'd like to get a better understanding of those decks. But total mana value and curve in a spell-based deck that, like Y'shtola, you're going to have a lower total mana value for your deck, and the curve is going to be substantially over to the left, and it's going to be more in 0, 1, 2s, 3s usually, because you're spell based and you want to be able to get off more spells. But in a deck like Y'shtola, you can see here that her curve is a little bit like the one here in the graph, but her curve is structured very heavy in the middle because we're wanting those triggers for Y'shtola. So if we have too many 0, 1s, and 2s, we're going to cast plenty of things, but we're not going to get any triggers and get any value off the triggers in damage done or life gained. But you can expect in a spell-based strategy, your mana curve will almost always be lower. And then in a big stompy strategy, your mana curve is almost always going to be higher. As you can see here with Panlaza, I've got plenty of 1s and 2s and 3s because those are all your ramp spells, your mana rocks, and your mana dorks. But if you look at the overall way that the curve is going, there's a ton of stuff that's on the heavy end because we want to ramp to have the ability to cast those big things. The ramp is just getting us there. It's not the game plan as far as winning the game. Another thing to look at is the total mana value of your Stola is 201 and the total mana value of Panlaza is 263. So that's a large mana value difference between the two decks with two very different strategies. And when you're looking at your total deck mana value, if you can aim, like if you're not in a big stompy strategy, if you can aim for around 190 of your total mana value or less, you're going to automatically be a little faster, getting going because of you're gonna have lower mana spells and be able to get your game plan going if everything revolves around a lower curve. With a higher curve, you're going to be very dependent on hitting those ramp spells, hitting those mana rocks, because you're going to have to build up mana as fast as you can to be able to accomplish what is mid game or even late game, depending on what level you're playing at. But you can use this exact outline for any commander. I don't care where you find it from, as if it's a real commander in Magic the Gathering, you can use this and go straight to it and be able to figure out, this is what my commander is, this is what my colors are, this is what the strengths of those colors are, and you can't go wrong with this. The only thing left to decide after this is really just when you're going to go play. So if you have any questions or any comments, and let me know what you think about this video, and until next time.